Hello and welcome. Welcome to the TV room. I'm just waiting for the irons to cool down. Maybe, possibly. I'm just checking the sound here. Maybe it's time to call Rudy. See what he's up to. He seems.
Hello, Dave.
Rudy.
How's it going, buddy?
Okay, by the way, just so you're aware,
Yes?
I am recording at this moment.
Oh, hello, everybody.
Yes, that's Rudy of Rudy's Retro Intel. He does incredible magical things. I've been working on something as well today.
Okay, what are you working on?
That keep. Remember, I had a chiclet pet that had just one bad wire.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I've just finished redoing all the wires.
Uh-oh. They're all
Well,
bad?
it just every time I moved it, another wire broke. So it
Oh, no.
it just seemed that every strand, or
Yeah,
the stuff must have been down to the last strand.
of course.
So the few that were holding on, I just got them out and
Yep,
took wire strippers and things and stuff and
yep.
shortened them a bit and got them better and cleaned out the holes. And I just moments ago finished
So much fun.
putting all the wires in, and of course the solder ran on a couple of them, so it ended up crossing over. And, oh, great fun it was!
Yes.
So anyway, I'm just the irons are cooling, and then I saw your message as I was recording away, and I said, "Oh, that's Rudy."
That's it.
So the next thing I will do is I will take the screws and I will put them back in and I will put the keyboard back together and hope that it works. I did like the wires from the bottom and the top, they go in the same order.
Right.
So as long as you make sure that you have them in the right order, there should be no trouble. I only screwed up once in the midst of all that, but I have corrected it. So, yeah. So you are working on a test thing that won't need any cables, you say?
Yeah, so you know the harness when you're doing your
Oh, yeah.
diagnostic on a 64, you have that, you plug into the user port and the serial port, the tape port, and you have all these wires going to your diagnostic cartridge.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm making one that doesn't need any wires. You just plug in the adapter and that's it.
Oh.
So there's no wires that dangle off the side or the back for the joystick.
So you put a cartridge in,
You still put your cartridge in,
and then
but
it does everything.
yeah, your regular diagnostic program will still work. You don't need all those wires. You still have to plug in all the adapters to all the ports, like the joystick port and the serial port and the user port and all that. But there's no wires that link between those back to each other.
So how do you do this magic?
Well, I have one from many, 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 many years ago that doesn't require any wires, and it's like I can't find it anywhere on the net. I can't find it anywhere on eBay and stuff. So I am looking at that, and I'm going to make my own version of the similar idea.
Oh.
Yeah. So you just plug in you have the adapter. You just plug into for example, just plug it into the joystick ports. Then you run your test. There's no wires that go from there to anywhere else. The harnesses, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I know the harness. Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. So where did you find this thing?
I found it on eBay, like I said, many years ago, and I can't seem to find the guy. There's nothing on the board that indicates who made it and where and anything. So yeah,
Huh.
and it works great. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to design my own version of something very similar to that, and go from there.
So it will diagnose everything without all the harness stuff.
Yeah, you just plug in the adapters into each port. Like you still have these adapters that plug in, right?
So okay, so you plug into the cartridge port.
So the cartridge you plug in regardless.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you know how you have an adapter that plugs into the two joystick ports.
Oh yes.
Okay, and there's a wire that goes from there back to somewhere else.
Yeah, like well, I mean, let's see. The two I use, one of them goes to the user port, the cassette port, the video. No, not the video port, the serial port, and
Yeah.
the joystick ports.
Right, and they'll have wires, right? They
Oh
go
yeah,
everywhere.
and the other one does all of that. Plus, it also connects to the keyboard port.
Right. The one I'm making doesn't require those. It's the same kind of idea. You still have to plug stuff into the ports, but there's no wires that go from. There's no harness wires.
Oh, so they just kind of feed back on themselves somehow.
Yeah, yeah.
Aha!
Like a loopback connector, right? So. Yeah.
Aha!
And it's enough. It's enough to tell the diagnostics that it's working or not, right? Like it's still gonna tell you if it's working or not. It just there's no wires that go any, like there's no harness of any kind.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, it's funny. The retro rewind one has one connector.
Yeah.
It does that.
Yeah.
The one that goes into the serial port is just its
Yeah.
own thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't connect to everything else, but everything else is all connected somehow.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you found this thing years ago, and it's some mysterious thing that I guess not many people know about.
That's right.
Oh, interesting. Well, maybe once you get it done, you should also talk to the Retro Rewind people.
Yeah, we'll take a look.
They seem to be making like they just came out with that other thing.
Yes.
For the 64 that the dead test that will actually tell you what RAM chips are toast.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but I will because I decided that in order to keep the bench clear, that I would try and work on one thing, get it done, move on. So I decided that the chiclet pet needed to get resolved. It's just one wire. How long could it take?
Yeah, how long could it take?
Except, of course, it was 18 wires. 18. So, but I think I've got it all done, and I will be able to. Oh, by the way, I had to take the whole keyboard all apart, like all the little screws, because the part where the keyboard connects to the machine is so tight on where I was soldering that it's very easy with the desoldering iron to melt some of the plastic. So I had to take it off. And so I did. And then I just have the little circuit board and all the little, and I took off all the cable ties, which of course just put them all together because I mean these were not the original wires all, so it wasn't the right color codes and it wasn't the right stuff, and it was real. Even with it separated, I did get messed up at one point and did the wrong wire and the wrong thing, which I corrected because I really, I then went to the next one and said, "Oh, wait a second, that's not right."
Yeah.
And undid, went back, and did it again. Yeah, that's also when I ended up getting solder taught across two of the connections. Yay. Great fun. So anyway, so I decided, yes, this is the chiclet pet that does not have a working data set. But we'll see about that. I'm not going to dig into the data set yet. I'm going to move on to something else. Perhaps what I would like to do next is, you remember I got that VIC-20 that had the PET keyboard thing,
Right.
but it also had the circuit board that I have never seen before. I basically on the VIC, I've seen two circuit boards, and now I've seen a third. And there was one fellow at the show at the World of Commodore who said, "Oh yeah, I have one of those. They were made in Japan." but I have the chips are all configured differently. There's no cover for the video stuff. Once again, I was just like, what is this? Now, did it work? Well, no, not yet. But I think I will dig into it. But of course, I still have to get some things out of the car. I've done some stuff out of the car, but not everything yet.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. So, so you will be, you'll have to get like cartridge things done.
What do you mean cartridge? Yeah.
Well, you'll have to, for the cartridge thing,
Yes.
you will have
I'll
to,
get
you'll have to get
boards
them
made up. Yeah.
made, yes, and burn EPROMs and things.
No, just the boards. They have to make sure that the connectors solder on properly and all that stuff, right? So, and that it's the right spacing for everything.
Oh yes.
Especially for the joystick, because there's two ports on the joystick, so you want to make sure that the board, that the connectors fit in properly
That would be good. Yes.
into the joystick port, and then you can use whatever diagnostic cartridge you want. Well, you can't use a dead test because that's not going to tell you, but any other cartridge. The one I like is called PC Doctor.
Oh.
Or the 64 Doctor or something like that. I think it's called 64 Doctor. It's kind of nice. I like it, and it works really well.
Oh. Very good. And you tell me, you've had success with the SuperPET adapter thing.
What do you mean?
The SuperPET keyboard, not keyboard.
Oh yes.
The cable that goes upstairs.
Yes. So that is, I have boards made up, and I built three. I've tested one, and it works fine. So that the adapter is working. So now I'm just making cables, and then I'll do a video on that too.
And how about the 3D printed dangling fan thing?
No, I haven't worked on that. I have to. I might make a prototype first out of like cardboard or something, and then I'm gonna give it over to Eugene to see if he can 3D print it.
Uh-huh.
Right? If I have like a prototype that's let's say cardboard, and he can take measurements and then put it into, because I don't have a 3D printer, and I don't know how to use it. So I could make something, and then he could take that and convert it into something that he can print off on his printer, and then if that works,
yes,
then that will be going in. So I'll be making a kit, the SuperPET. What am I going to call it? Like a first aid kit. It'll come with the adapter cable, so you can have the replacement cable for the CPU that goes up to the daughter board. You'll have heat sinks for the three EPROMs, and the adapter with a fan that you can plug in to help cool the SuperPET. Yes.
Sounds like a plan. So the by the way, for those that don't know, Rudy's of course been working on SuperPET things, and one of the things, and he even talked to one of the fellows who helped design it. What was his name again?
Trevor Grove.
Yeah. And of course, heat is the enemy. And
heat is
of course,
definitely the enemy. I figured it out on my own, but he verified that is true. So.
And did Commodore put a fan into it? No, they let them die.
And you know why?
Because then they could charge for repairs.
I think they were too cheap to make them.
Well, they probably didn't have a fan company.
No.
But you would think eventually they did.
Yeah.
Because of course, like the Amiga 1000 had a fan, the 2000 had a fan, the 3 and the 4 and the towers, and I think even at some point they put a fan in some of the Commodore 128Ds. But why? Because I mean, here we have like the original SuperPET, 3 boards stacked on top of each other. It's all, there was the Amiga toaster. Well, talk about a toaster. You got 3 boards in close proximity, all producing heat.
Yeah.
And the heat rising into the next board and into the next board.
Yeah.
And heat is the enemy.
Definitely.
So there was, and I might have one somewhere years ago, because the 1541 got notoriously hot. There was a company that made a special fan that had, and it basically, you sat it beside the thing. It had, beside the 1541, and you plunked it down, and it fit perfectly over the 1541. And so the air would get sucked in and be blown directly into the vents at the top near the back of the drive.
Right.
And you just, you turned it on. Well, if you had it on a power bar, it just came on. Because the gentle hum of a fan is not a terrible thing when you know it's
No.
going to help you keep your valuable computers alive.
That's right.
Very good. So at some point, you will have the. Okay, the thing we were just talking about that Rudy has made. It's a little board that connects to a ribbon cable, because in order for the SuperPET to work, you take the 6502 chip out, and you plunk this cable thing that plugs into the 6502 socket, and then this cable goes up and attaches to the upper board, or boards, depending on the case, and the 6502 goes up there. Well, the pins on the thing, the cable, are not that great. And I guess they intended, no one will ever unplug this, but, things happen, and the pins get broken, and the pins get bent, and they were not very resilient. So Rudy has made a circuit board that lets you plug in, and it's got really good pins, and then you can just take a ribbon cable attached to that, go to the upper board, and, after 40 years or so, also the ribbon cables can get brittle. So this should help keep some more super pets alive.
That's the trick. That's the plan.
And then there will be the fan.
And then there'll be a fan.
The dangling fan, which will be a 12-volt.
You won't be dangling. It'll be mounted on a bracket that you can easily bolt onto or screw onto the SuperPET board.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, think of it like an arm holding a fan up.
Gotcha.
Kind of idea, right? And it'll be able to blow or suck the air over the EEPROMs, which have now they will have heat sinks on them, so it'll help keep them cool. The whole object of the whole point of this is the objective of this is to keep the ROMs cool, because the ROMs get super crazy hot. I mean, you have it on for like a few minutes, and you can barely touch it. You'll start burning your finger. Like, that's how hot they get. And all the ones that all the SuperPET boards I've worked on have found at least one or more bad ROMs.
Uh-huh.
And they're all due from heat. They just get so hot. Actually, I made a replacement ROM. I had older EEPROMs.
Yep.
That I erased, and I programmed them. I put them in my adapter. I put in my board, and it got so hot that the inside of the little window was glowing orange, and then it broke.
So I guess once you get all this sorted out, you will then have to experiment whether it's better to suck or blow.
Yes. It doesn't really matter. I think as long as the air is flowing over the EEPROMs, it'll help cool it down. And by cooling it down, then you're increasing the longevity of your SuperPET. And I bet you that is probably why most SuperPETs that you see for sale don't work, is because of the heat issue.
Uh-huh.
Like the last two boards I repaired had the exact same EEPROM and one support chip that was bad on both of them. And I'm pretty sure it's due to heat.
Chances are.
Yep.
So the fan and the heat sinks should drastically reduce the temperature. And are there other chips you would suggest the heat sink should go on?
Well, you can put some on the processor, the 6502 and the 6809. It doesn't hurt to put, heat sinks. Like on my 64, I have it on the VIC-2 chip, the PLA, and the SID chips.
Very reasonable.
It helps to cool them down. How much does it help? It does reduce the temperature and then increase the longevity of those chips, right?
Yep. And
you should put on all of them. You should put on the CPU and the ROMs and all that stuff, and it'll help. Everything helps with cooling.
Where do you find the best place to get like various sizes of those?
Oh, just Amazon. You can buy a box of them, and then they have different sizes, and you can just and they come with the um, the paste already pre placed on the heat sink. So you just peel off the backing and then you stick it on. Done.
Huh.
You have to buy the paste and squirt it on the chip and then take your heat sink, pop it in, and all that. No, you just peel it off and stick it.
You know, there's a thing I've seen where people say, after 20 years, I can proudly say I've never watched an episode of the Kardashians, and I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, is I have never yet ordered something from Amazon.
Uh-huh.
Never. Not for any grand reason. It's like anything. It's like, well, it just hasn't been like, it's just not in the wheelhouse. It's not, because I
Yeah.
haven't done it, it isn't something I think of. But
Right.
perhaps it's time.
Perhaps it's time. Yes.
Perhaps. I will see.
Yeah.
Because I would need a lot of heat sinks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, like I said, it's very they're not expensive, and and it'll be good because the more you can reduce the heat, the better. Right?
Heat is the enemy, says Bill Hurd.
Yes.
Bill Hurd, of course, made the Commodore Plus 4 and then the 128. So as he said, and I heard him say this himself, so one year people had a horrible Christmas because they got a Plus 4, but the next year they got the 128. Much better. But he said they obviously made these things too good because they weren't supposed to last this long. And as I sit here looking at the open portion of a chiclet pet, which would have come out now like 47 years ago, and it's still working, he was right. But I really should get heat sinks for it as well. Maybe even install a fan. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, because I am intending at some point, I keep saying this, but to sort of, lessen my collection and sell things. Maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing to do that. But tell me, once you put the heat sinks on, are they hard to get off again?
No, you can just peel it off, but then I wouldn't bother. Just peel it off and throw it away because it's so cheap. But you have to put more paste down again, right?
Uh-huh. Rightio. But you can
Yeah.
take, if you were troubleshooting, you could take the chips out and leave them on.
Oh yeah.
Gotcha.
And what I do on mine, for example, like I put heat sinks, for example, on as an example on my SuperPET boards, right?
Yep.
But what I've done on the bottom side of each IC, I have a permanent marker that writes in white paint. It's like what's it called? It's a Sharpie paint pen.
Oh.
Okay, and on the bottom I write the number of the location of the board. So, for example, SuperPET has the 3 ROMs. One is U47, U48, and U49.
Uh-huh.
So under each chip, I write U47, U48, U49. Then when I put the heat sinks on and I pull it off, I go, okay, what goes where? Well, I'm covering up all the numbers I can't see.
Gotcha.
So you look at the bottom of the chip, says, oh, U47. So that goes back into U47, U48, U49, etc. Right? I do that with all my chips that I put heat sinks on. I mark underneath some kind of indication. Like, for example, the one I have on my 64 ZIF socket machine, I have the PLA, right? The letter PLA on the bottom of the chip.
Genius.
And it's a white marker, like it's a Sharpie, but it's paint. Huh. So you shake it, and then you write on it, and it dries, and it sticks on, and it's good. And that way you know what goes where, because it's like once you cover up all the numbers, it's like what goes where? I don't know. Well, look at the bottom of the chip, and you'll know where that came from.
Very reasonable. I will follow that advice when I get into the heatsink mode.
Yes.
Very good. Well, it
Very good.
sounds like you are continuing to work on great things.
I am trying.
Yes, yes, you are trying. Very trying. Yes,
Yes.
yes. Very good. Well, I suppose maybe if you want to say goodbye to the people, then I'll stop recording, and we
All
can
right. Goodbye, people.
talk about what we really want to talk about.
All right. Well, have a good day.
Okay, people, and we're gonna wrap it up, and then I'll have a few more words with Rudy, and then we'll see you again as I put the Chiclet Pet keyboard back together and hope and pray that it works.
Yeah.
All right,
Enjoy.
people, have a lovely day, and we'll see you again. Hang in
Okay.
there, Rudy. Just a second. Okay. Bye for
Thank
now,
you.
people.